Hello, and welcome to Basic Folk, where we have honest conversations with folk musicians. It's Cindy Howes. Here we are. It's great to be here. Thanks for listening. I am pumped about our guest today, Maya De Vitry. She has a new record out, and she's going to do it track by track for us, which we will get to very, very soon. I will tell you a little bit about Maya De Vitry if you do not know. She used to be in a band called the Stray Birds, and she is not in that band anymore. The band originally from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Maya lives in Nashville these days, and she has quietly released one of the best records of the year back in March, the album How to Break a Fall. On the podcast today, she goes through the album track by track with us. The record ranges in sound from gauzy beauties to sick grooves to jagged rock bangers. There are a lot of themes on this record, like celebrating women and reclaiming your own self and your body. It fully acknowledges past traumas in unique metaphors. For instance, there's a song called Baking Bread for the Circus. It's about survival in an abusive situation, the circus being like the show where there is darkness behind the stage, and the bread is like whatever you need to do to survive the circus. Maya breaks down this and all of the tracks in insightful and entertaining conversation. She's one of my favorite people and musicians. Everything she creates and says totally blows me away, and I'm so glad to get her back on the podcast. And if you haven't listened to Maya's first appearance on Basic Folk, make sure you go back. She's on episode 11. I've linked it on my website. I just want you to be as obsessed with Maya De Vitry as I am. Listen on, and I guarantee you'll be all about this amazing person as we get a track by Maya De Vitry on Basic Folk. It's so funny because, like, doing, like, social distancing, I feel, like, really sick of myself and, like, not amused with myself. So, like, digging into your record and hearing about all the themes was making me feel like maybe I'm just being just a little judgmental on myself. But I'm happy to like dig deep into your album. It's like it's really good.
Thanks.
So the record is called How to Break a Fall. It was released on March 13th. And so there are a lot of themes on this record. Celebrating women reclaiming their own selves and their own body. So before we dig deep into like what each song is about, I was wondering if you could talk about like what your feelings on being a woman are like, and maybe how has your relationship with your gender changed, like if it changed at all after this album.
I think the album was my way to process a lot of things. And so, yeah, I think it is different now. And I think it was a lot of the album is like a self-examination and an excavation and, you know, holding myself accountable to have deeper self-belief and kind of letting go of a lot of these paradigms and belief systems and things that were really internalized and really ingrained in me, not necessarily from, you know, any specific person in my life, but just over time, like our culture and media and then different relationships. And I think a lot of it is as a woman, like holding yourself accountable as a woman, and to know that a lot of our strength comes from reorganizing our interior and knowing that work is up to us, and it's very private, and it can be shared and it can be a collective kind of thing. But instead of leading with like some kind of outward anger or rage, I think my process has been to just reorganize kind of from the inside out, and that's a personal journey, but I think it's also in this record and on these songs, it's something that I was exploring like from other perspectives too, and other stories of women in that process, and art, like a lot of female artists in that process, and what that kind of thing feels like to live through.
Can you talk about the different perspectives you were taking into account?
Yeah. So one of the people who I don't know personally, but this author, Sue Monk Kidd, really influenced this record. She wrote a book called The Dance of the Dissident Daughter, and this book is about her journey. She was, for a long time, she was like a writer in basically just in a Christian tradition, and she had this epiphany in like the middle of her life, in the middle of her career, about the fact that she didn't have any feminine divine presence to lean on. It wasn't like any, and so even if basically she was realizing that there was something deep within her, kind of embedded from the Christian tradition, to lean on and look for approval from the cultural father, whatever that is, and whether that's like a man, or whether it's just some kind of male-dominated culture, or a space that women are not in, like, not even not invited or welcome, but just like not present because it maybe is a space that hasn't traditionally been open to women. And so that I was reading that, and I was processing a lot of my own, and kind of unpacking a lot of my own experiences in pleasing the cultural father, and what that had meant for me, and whether it was people I had worked with in the music business so far, people I had played music with, and then people like even not as close to me, but just, some random guy, and feeling that I needed to have some kind of approval, or some kind of, that I needed to be okay by that person. And that was this subconscious thing that had been running through me for I don't know how long, but it was really unsettling. And when I started to read her book, and it was like, it's like if you find a book that is like kind of, you could use it as a map for your own thing at that time. It can be really unsettling. And so that's one person in particular. I overheard my bones reading poems on how to break a fall, and I caught my arms looking up a recipe for how to hold it all. And if I could hold my anger, where in the world would I carry it to? Forgiving myself is the most I can.
Okay, let's start talking about the songs on this record. The opener is called Better and Better, and you wrote some notes about each song on this record, and you're talking about how this song was the doorway to a new kind of self-knowledge, self-reliance, and self-acceptance. Yeah. And what I wanted to hear from you about was about the mind-body connection, where you were talking about that sometimes our pain exists in visible, external, physical ways, like when you break a leg, but then sometimes the pain is internal, the brokenness is internal and invisible. And this song is kind of like acknowledging that invisible inside pain. But what about when your body is trying to tell you that something is emotionally wrong? How does this song acknowledge the emotional pain that your body physically holds?
I don't know. I can't even remember like the lyrics off the top of my head. I just know. I mean, I can remember writing it, and it was basically right before like a very, very big breaking point for me. I didn't realize the amount of anxiety and depression I was experiencing in the situation I was in. specifically in the full-time touring situation in the Stray Birds, and which is a band that I was in for about 7 years, so for most of my 20s. And this song was the doorway to this record, because it was that kind of thing where like the invisible shows itself, and my body was starting to shut down and starting to the pain was like starting to come out of me, whether it was like in a song or like physical pain that I didn't realize was possible, or wanting to, you know, break my arm so I would have a reason to not be able to play music for a while, because my relationship with music was so damaged.
Wow.
And so it was coming from like a really self-destructive place, and this song was like, it was what was coming out of me, kind of like a voice from the future at that time. Like this was before, you know, the band was still together, and this song was like when I wrote this song, and then looked at the words to the song and sang the song, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I'm seeing how far I am right now from where I need to be, like in my body and mind, and I'm seeing that, like I'm seeing the door for where I have to go, and this is not going to be a pretty journey. And
wow.
it was like, it was the doorway, and then the rest of that, and it was the song that started the writing of this record. And so yeah, but it was from a really, like, to be singing like I'm getting better and better and better was like not how I was at that moment. It was like it was like what I wanted.
In talking to songwriters, it seems kind of wild that you wrote that song like in the middle of like a crisis, because it seems like it's usually after the fact when you've had time to reflect. But it also is like, maybe this song is also, like you were talking about how it was coming out in your writing, and like, yeah, you just had your intuition maybe was like pushing it out of you, which is incredible.
Yeah, like the lines like, I'm taking care of myself, it's the most I can do. It was like, I just almost like creating a mantra for myself to be able to just
like a to-do list.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally.
Oh man, it's such a good song. Like what a great album opener. It's incredible.
Forgiving myself is the most I can do. It's a circus, it's attraction, it's animals in passion, it's a big top extravaganza, and it's a rolling pace. There's a magic.
Baking Bread for the Circus is the next song. This is a song about survival in an abusive situation. The circus being like the show where there's darkness behind the stage, and the bread is whatever you need to do to survive the circus. Like, I'm baking bread for the circus. So why was it baking bread for the circus? Like, what made you think of these two metaphors in this instance? Like, I totally understand the circus part of it, but the bread is kind of like an interesting, intriguing choice.
When I wrote the song, I remember it just like came out, and I think the bread is like what, it's something that's so generic and so simple, and like so, like nobody thinks about what the circus performers like are eating before they go out, or like even, you know, as a musician, like, or when you go to see a show, like there's somebody was like putting gas in the car that day, and somebody was like eating a sandwich at the rest stop, and like just it's the physical filling up of, and then there's, you know, the external thing of this show that happens. But baking bread is like the invisible part. And in this song, in that way, I think it's also about like invisible labor and just like the things that we don't see that are keeping everything else like whirring around and happening. I don't know why it's bread specifically, but I think just because it's like a simple thing that you could live off of for a long time, but maybe it's not actually like nourishing or like over a long period of time. And the baking is, I just picture it being like, I don't know, like kind of different hours, I guess, like waking up early and putting the thing in the oven like when no one else is watching, and kind of taking care of the whole machine when no one else is watching.
Wow.
So I think that's part of the metaphor, and I think, you know, the circus could be a dysfunctional marriage, it could be a dysfunctional government, it could be anything that's like, it's like the smoke and mirrors thing, or it's like there's a show, like it's people are putting on a show. And I mean, I know in my own experience, like I've done it and I've seen people do it, or I've been surprised by people who I later find out, oh my gosh, I had no idea that you were going through such a hard time. And it's like we get accustomed to, we don't know, if you're not giving information, like we can't be reading each other's minds, but sometimes we can help, but sometimes we can't. Yeah. if we really don't know.
The next song is Magazine, a song about a woman literally taking her body back from a magazine, which can you tell the story of the original inspiration for this song? Yeah,
so I do a lot of babysitting, and I grew up the oldest of 4 kids, and I've always been a babysitter. And
you're so responsible.
And there's these 2 girls in Nashville who I babysit for sometimes, and the older one was like puffing her belly out just as big as she could, and was really amusing herself and cracking up and really proud of the shape that she was making with her body, and showing it to me and her little sister. And you know,
how old was she?
She was about 5, like not quite in school yet. So yeah, like 4 or 5. And so because she's not seeing peers and being inundated with messages about what to do with her body and what is right to do with her body, she just feels so comfortable in her skin. And I was really, I think just because of all the stuff I was reading at the time and what was running through my mind about just how we learn the ways that we respect ourselves and the ways that we carry our body, or how we make ourselves smaller and accommodate to things. And so I just was feeling really sensitive and raw to that, and seeing her in this super joyful, super open state, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, it's like a prayer for her to be able to, I guess, just have courage on that journey to come out on the other side. And hopefully, you know, I don't know what is ahead of her in particular. I think it's super unique, but I don't know. And I don't think it's particular or unique to women either. I think it's, but there is a certain, I can only speak for myself, and I think there's a really unique struggle to figure out that you belong and that you can take up the space, and then you can, you know, be a human in a human body in the world.
How did your feelings about your own body change after you wrote that song?
I was kind of experimenting with that, kind of in a, like, where it was the internal way to the external way. Like, I had just completely cut my hair off. And that was just something that it just felt like something I needed to do. And
because wait, before you cut all your hair off, you had like shoulder length long hair. Had you always had long hair?
There's a little period in right at the beginning of high school when I had shorter hair, but never as short as I had like before, like while writing this record. Yeah, so I think that was somehow a part of it. And I think also cutting my hair off was like, I didn't want to recognize myself in the mirror anymore. I wanted to look and be like, okay, that's a new person. I can now grow into this new person and not be the person I was. But as far as my feelings shifting, I mean, I wish I could say that it like transformed me or something, but I don't think it really did. I mean, one part of the song is about being, you know, places like learning that there are places too dangerous for you to go and places that are too dangerous for you to walk, and, you know, thinking about walking alone at night or something. And I really, really struggle with that still. And there's like times that I am feeling like really, really strong and really like at home in my, like strong in my spirit and strong in my body. And like I do a lot of rock climbing at the climbing gym here in Nashville, and I finished climbing one night and I was walking into the grocery store, and like some guy like put his car at this weird angle and yelled something out at me, and it like really, really shook me up. And the whole time I was in the grocery store, I was so angry at myself for being so shaken up at this comment and I was wearing like super tight clothes because I had just been at the gym, and I just went from feeling like, you know, like just a calm sense of belonging and strength to like just leveled. And that was really recently. And I think so much of this record is like this ongoing process, and it's kind of like I'm trying to at least build awareness and like restructure the way I process things inside of me. But I know that I can't like wave the magic wand and be like, now I have invincible spirit. And so it's just a process, and it's like an awareness time for me.
She read off the page of the magazine. After dinner, I step outside, smell the wood stove on the air. There's some place I'm gonna find the words, I just don't know where.
The next song is called Don't Know When. It's a song about when you're not yet ready to be vulnerable after you've experienced something traumatic. This seems like, so in talking about this is an ongoing process, this seems like a good practice in self-preservation. Like in this song, Don't Know When, you know what you need in that exact moment. How are you at identifying like what your needs are, and what has been your evolution with that experience?
Definitely getting a lot better at it. And, you know, I think like for a good example, you know, in the situations where basically I've really tried to take a lot of responsibility for my own codependency in a lot of situations, and I have been trying to practice being able to just say what I want, like, and picking it even as a choice between two very simple things. Like, I would have a tendency for a long time, if someone was like, do you want lettuce or spinach? I'd be like, I don't care. Like, whatever you want, whatever, you know, whatever you can find in the fridge faster. And then I would make this practice to myself, like, no, like, you have to choose, Maya. Like, you have to know there something inside of you must prefer one or the other, because then I was seeing that was rippling out into all these other places. And so it's definitely the other thing that I've been practicing as far as knowing what I want is to not like self-edit and not compromise or like pre-compromise, like not try to make what I'm about to set on the table to someone in a conversation, not try to make it palatable to them necessarily, but make it true and make it honest. And that's been a difficult thing, because just in some of the situations I've been in and the relationships I've been in, it was like a survival mode for me to be able to get anything across. I would try to kind of tread lightly and see what I could negotiate, but it wasn't always from the most true place or the most real place, which I was afraid maybe would just wreck everything that was on the table. So I wasn't able to state it because I was afraid of it. And so that's part of it too. But yeah, I think so. I'm getting better at knowing what I want and when I need to stay in and when I need to have spinach.
Did you say you wanted spinach?
I don't remember. I think, but I remember that I was like, yeah, you know, I want, so I don't know if it was spinach, but I was like, yeah, I want spinach because I already had lettuce. Like, I already had a salad earlier today or something. Like, there was totally a reason.
Yeah.
There was like totally a reason for me to choose one of those. And I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know why I just said I don't care at the beginning.
Okay, let me tell you about my journey with this next song, Something in the Way She Moves.
Okay.
I listened to the whole record like a bunch of times, and then I was going and listening through each song like pretty closely. And so I got to this song. I was like, oh, like the Beatles song. And then I was like, let me look up the Beatles song. And then I realized, oh, Something in the Way She Moves is actually a James Taylor song, and the Beatles song is just called Something.
Mm-hmm.
But I also learned that George Harrison was inspired by that James Taylor song. And when James Taylor found out, he was very flattered. And he also makes a reference to the Beatles song, I Feel Fine, I think, or something like that. But anyways, it was quite a journey. Cool. So I'm wondering, like, it seems like pretty intentional to name this song like the exact same title of a James Taylor song, and you know, the Beatles song Something has a very close reference too. So am I correct, or did I just go down a rabbit hole, misguided rabbit hole?
I love both of those songs, and I think that I'm sure they were around. I mean, I couldn't not have them in my mind when the song was forming. But I think what I was really trying to get to was just this idea of a woman being watched and being like a separate object of something. And so I think that with the James Taylor song, as much as you can appreciate someone and watch them like as a separate object, he's singing about a woman, and she's separate, and the way she's moving is like pleasing and making him feel good. Or in this song, I'm trying to kind of turn that on its head, and it's like her every movement that she makes, and when she turns and she stands, she's doing it on her own accord, and she's taking up the space, and she's kind of on her own journey. And the people who are watching her are not like, they're like shocked and unsettled and disturbed by what she's doing. And I think I just hadn't found that narrative in a song before, and I wanted to make it. And so yeah, it was really just trying to create a woman on a journey of being, and this the feeling of being watched and being judged, and like kind of not just for one particular woman, but like women in history. But she kind of doesn't care in the song, and she's taken this snake with her out of the garden, and like doesn't care. She's not going to stop what she's doing and her path, or what she's finding, and what she's digging things, she's discovering things, she's reading a letter of ransom, and like none of the people who are spectating and observing can watch her. She's still this separate object, but she's like the subject because she's doing the things, and they can watch her if they want, but she's not going to change her behavior because they're watching.
You know what visual I get for the watchers in this song is, have you ever seen Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window?
No.
With Jimmy Stewart? Just like, I think he's got a telescope, and he's watching through his like apartment window at like this potential murder. But that's like, I have like a very like Alfred Hitchcock Rear Window perspective.
I also have the telescope or like binoculars. Like that's totally when it's like at the beginning there, come take a look through the lens. It's like I picture these people just kind of gathering around their telescope and trying to peer through.
My God, you guys, get a life.
There's something in the way she moves.
The next song is called Gray. Is this the halfway point in the album?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which seems like a pretty intentional choice.
I found another way to feel the edges left between the world and you and me. I found another way to live the story. I found another way to set it free. I watch her bend the trees and move the water. The wind was never one to clear the air.
Can you talk about the choice for the tone of this song and how it is symbolic?
Yeah. So the other thing I think that was going on culturally while I was writing this record was there were the Supreme Court hearings for Brett Kavanaugh being confirmed and Christine Blasey Ford testifying, and there's a lot coming out in the Me Too movement, and this song is like, it's trying to take a stance of kind of just letting some of that noise fall away and trying to see like farther back than a particular incident and into like the cultural context of what happens and the cultural responsibility that we all have for our society, and the idea that we have a campus rape culture at all or anything like that. and like what that means, and that none of us as human beings are being like raised in little vacuum jars. We're interacting and we're all in this together and learning from each other and coming to believe things about ourselves from each other and what we're supposed to do and what we're allowed to do. And so this song is just trying to take this perspective that there, like, reconciliation is possible, and that forgiveness is possible, and love is possible. Not necessary, and forgiveness just really meaning, like, I really love that I've kind of come to some definition of that word as like to like forgive. In my mind, I think about of like giving something forward. Like for me to forgive someone, I give them forward into their own life and their own future, and I'm not there anymore. But I give them forward, but I don't carry them with me like as my own burden as well. I just give them forward to their journey. And the tone is like how I feel in my heart, which is that it's not like a blanket. It's not blanket forgiveness. It's not getting anyone off the hook either. It's definitely like an acknowledgement of the gray, and the gray just being like the gray in all of us, and the gray in times, there's times that I wish I would have spoken up and done something differently, had I known, or had I even known to question something that was happening, or had I known to speak up about something. And it's really hard. And I think it's just trying to look at the cultural landscape, but like with a big deep breath, and maybe like some kind of conversation about the nuanced humanity that we've been losing because people have been in these narrow definitions of who they think they are supposed to be. And so that's what the song is about, is taking, like, there's the scene in the song of taking the keys from, there's like these guards that are guarding you in this prison of who you're supposed to be. And that, I guess, just I'm trying to give strength and hope to myself and to anyone who's in whatever prison that is. And one part of that prison might be that, like, the prison might be that you've been able to get away with taking advantage of people. And I think that's a prison, even if you're getting away with it. But I want that person to be free. And it's not my responsibility to make them free. I don't know how to do that, but I guess it's just giving the space and trying to at least acknowledge that we're all in kind of, I think in some of those times we just kind of get paralyzed and try to make it black and white.
Now I know why the light at the end of the day is gray. But I don't know how it started. You talking over me till you walk right through. I'm gonna need you to leave. Please allow me to open the door for you.
The next song, Open the Door. This is a rock and roll song, which it sounds so good. I want to know how you got there with that arrangement, and also how you feel about your vocals on this track, because your singing is different on this song, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so it was so fun to sing this record because I think I was able to kind of get in these I was able to get in these characters almost, like not quite theater, but to just feel like like this song was written in such a specific moment of emotion. And I actually was inspired to write this. I started writing this song when I was like, I've had it. I'm so sick of someone just like taking a microphone out of my hands during a sound check, or just there was this gig and this guy that he was not working the show at all. He was not doing sound. He was not doing anything. But he was sitting in the auditorium and talking at me and asking me questions about my guitar and my pedals and my amp and just my setup, and just talking at me through my sound check. And I was having a really hard time focusing, and I was also having a really hard time making a boundary and knowing that it was okay to say, hey, like, I'm doing my job right now, and I can't talk to you, and you need to leave, and you need to leave, and the show starts at 8. And I don't know why that was so hard for me, and I think it was part of those ingrained patterns and just trying to make someone else feel comfortable. And so that's where the song came from, is because I started writing. I was like, I wish I had this song to sing at that moment. And I would just sing it in that sound check, and that would maybe give me the courage to say what I really needed to say.
The song is a literal boundary.
It's a literal, yeah. Yeah. So, and I started writing it with like a much more casual feel. And then as I got like really fired up as I was writing it, I just started playing it with this, more of that kind of rock and roll, like punk rock drive to it. And then in the studio with the band, Dan Nobler, the producer of this record, who I also worked with on adaptations, and he was like, is this okay? Like, are we taking it too far? Is this still like, does this still feel true for you? I was like, yeah, I really want to sing it like this. This is exactly what I want to do right now. So it just feels so fun. And yeah, like I just, there's so many stories on this record, and I feel so, I really enjoy that. I feel very, very separate from the song. Kind of like once I've written it, it's like, okay, now I get to climb inside of it and wear the clothes of that song and sing it. But then I can step outside of it and kind of see it from afar. And so it's, the other thing on this record is I'm the only singer on the whole record. So instead of there being like harmony vocals or anything like that, my voice is trying to be the story and be the song and be the tone fully. Like there's nothing else to bolster it. And so it's like a very unique, like each song I think has such a unique perspective and is written in this like specific moment of emotion, and then there's like a singular voice to deliver that emotion. I'm not relying.
There's no harmonies.
Yeah, I'm not relying on it. There's no harmonies on the record. So, wow. Yeah.
That's so true. Yeah, I guess there isn't.
Yeah.
I've been sweet as I could. I'm pretty when I try, so I've been told. But today's the day I'm taking up rock and roll. And ever since I got pleasing people out of my mind, I sure got a hell of a lot of free time. Soared through the tall tales of old. Yeah, today's the day I'm taking up rock and roll.
This is my favorite song on the album, Taking Up Rock and Roll.
Cool.
Yeah. Can you talk about how this song is in part a tribute to Sister Rosetta Tharpe?
Yeah. I went like almost my whole life up until making the record or writing the record without really knowing about her. And she is an incredible guitar player. There's I went down like a rabbit hole on YouTube watching videos of her. She's like the godmother of rock and roll, for real. And there's like these videos of her wearing like a big long dress and big coat, playing at a train station, just strutting around, taking solos on electric guitar. I wish I would have seen that like 15 years ago or 20 years ago. I feel like it would have changed my, I don't know. It's like, sometimes it's so hard to envision something that you don't see. And so I think like the visibility of women making art and writing and singing and performing and playing instruments and playing guitar and playing drums and just all of that is really, really important to just be visible, as you know, to be making the best and most honest art we can, but just the responsibility of like, wow, I'm like a part of visibility for maybe someone else who, you know, wants to go out on a limb and write a song and try to sing about a vulnerable thing. And I think for me, there have just been not even certain instruments that have felt off limits, but just certain attitudes that have felt off limits. And I think that this record is like an exploration of those attitudes, like in the writing and in the perspectives, and seeing her, like her joy and her grit when she's playing, and just taking up all the space she wants musically. And and that's just such a powerful thing. So that's a big part of this song. And then for this one, kind of the opposite of that one of Open the Door, which is just like punk rock. This is the one that's actually called Taking Up Rock and Roll, but we were like, let's just really, this is like a laid back, feel good, like just bop along. There's no solos. It's just a groove. And I'm singing it like as low as I possibly can in my voice, just in this super chill place. So
yeah,
it was just, it's so fun.
The next song is Reverie. So this one was, I might need your help to clarify, but it seems as though you wrote Reverie about humanity not being the center of the world.
If you go out far enough to find the earth standing all alone, and if you watch her long enough to catch her in her reverie, it's likely she's remembering life without you and me.
One of the lines that repeats over and over again says, to catch her in her reverie, it's likely she's remembering life without you and me, is the line that repeats over and over again. And it seems like you're acknowledging that like your problems that feel as big as the world are actually not the center of the world.
Totally.
Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that. And would it be your conclusion that like that thought is comforting, or is it not comforting?
I think that it's comforting. That's like the most current example. We're talking as the coronavirus is happening, and I was just reading today that all of the waters in Venice have really cleared up, and there's dolphins swimming in the canals now, and they haven't seen dolphins there for 60 years or something. Someone was like, I guess nature is just taking this little opportunity to set the reset button while people are kind of disappearing from taking up all that space for a while. To me, it's comforting to just, I don't know, to like I think they both things can exist, that our problems and our situations in ourselves about what we have believed about our, potential and our bodies and our minds, and that's very real, and that's a very difficult struggle. But then there's also going to be a tree that falls in the forest, and it's making a sound and no one's going to hear it, and that's how it's mostly been for all time. And and that mostly nature is, and like the world, the natural world, like we are a part of the natural world, but we've separated ourselves from it, and nature is just, it's going and growing, and there are cycles and noise and silence all around us. And yeah, it's like a surrender. That song is a moment of like a great zooming out from the rest of the record, and like a great surrender to like, okay. And also I acknowledge that me and my community and the music scene and our country and our nations that we've built around the world and all of human history, like this is all just it's all like a speck. So it's not, I don't know, it's and then not to discount anyone's very, very real experience of being in their animal body and animal mind that we're in all the time. Like we're a part of that. So I think both things can exist.
I learned to sing while I worked the land for a powerful king. What is this language that painted these lines? Must I make up another one word at a time? What are these walls inside of me?
This song, Revolution, it seems like it's like pretty encompassing of a lot of the themes that you have been thinking about in terms of creating this album. It's a song about overthrowing old beliefs and throwing them on trial. And to me, this is the most powerful song on the record in terms of what you're writing about and in terms of the music. Your singing is like very urgent. Can you talk about your intention when arranging this song and how urgency plays into it and how the message of the song matches the delivery?
Yeah, we wanted, I mean, it's the guitar tone is like super, super coarse and harsh, and the drums are just so haunting to me at the beginning, and like it's like rattling chains or something, and so those sounds together, and then in contrast with the chorus of the song is just like, it really, really opens up. But still there's, it's still like a singular melody taking you through. It's not, there's no harmonies to like fill out this big chorus. The music opens up kind of underneath the vocals, but it's still this one melody line. And yeah, it's like the moment of truth and the moment of battle, or the moment of turning away from a specific battle and choosing a different battle. And yeah, so it feels very urgent.
I'm still facing what it's like to know myself for a lifetime of long walks and silences along the beach inside my mind. In the meantime, I love you. And what if I don't care what this means, and it's not a question.
The next song is an actual love song.
An actual love song. It is.
An actual love song. It's In the Meantime, I Love You.
Mm-hmm.
And So it is a love song, but not just a love song, one that embraces uncertainty and change. So, Maya, when you write a love song about a healthy relationship, how I love the laugh. How does that help you further understand the relationship and understand yourself?
I think the part about change is, and like, we love all the seasons and we love all the kinds of weather, and we have to let love change forever. Like, that sentiment in the song is for me what has been missing from toxic situations and toxic relationships, is the acknowledgement of growth and being a growing person and a growing being that may shift and change, and by the season or by the day, for what you need and what makes you happy. And so I think that finding that with someone where you can acknowledge that is really critical, because love is not a static decision, and it's a cycle, and it's in motion like any other living thing. So that's a really important part of that song.
May you leap like an animal, awakened. May you calm the dark for the seeds that blow through the window of a spirit that is broken.
The last song on the album is called Joy, and it seems like now you're in a pretty healthy place and you let joy into your life. And I'm wondering, how do you relate to joy now versus at a time when things weren't so good?
I think it's like thank God this exists. It's real, like, okay, it's real. And how did I, and then looking back a little bit, like, how did I lose sight of that? Like, I think the thing with some abusive situations and toxic situations, you just, like, your endurance for unhealthy things just gets really high, and then that fills up all the space, and then there's not very much room. And joy might be more of like a high, rather than like a spike, rather than just like an actually accessible thing, that you could feel about, like, I don't know, eating a waffle or something. Like, and I'm like a super, super optimistic person. So that has also really been challenging, because I've always, like, no matter what's been going on for me, I have trouble saying that I need help, or have trouble saying that something is wrong, and that I'm, and that's why I got to the point where I was just, like, completely disintegrating, like, from the inside out. And I think that I was confusing joy with optimism for a while, and thinking that I had joy or I could access joy, or I could feel joy because I was able to just take an optimistic perspective. So now joy it feels much more tangible and much more accessible. And that's like the prayer of this song is like, don't let anybody tell you that joy is just too far, like, that it's not worth it, that it doesn't exist, that it's not here, or that it only exists in something. Don't let anybody tell you that you have to do something for them for you to feel joy, something that you don't want to do, or it's not something that is used in an exchange or like negotiation, or it's not a currency. Like it's like when you're just like back to your honest place.
How to Break a Fall is the record, and we just went through the whole album song by song.
Holy cow.
Thanks for doing that with me. I know. We did it. You said some like really smart stuff, Maya.
Oh,
it's very good.
thanks.
But now, are you ready for the lightning round?
Okay.
All right, here we go. Do you want me to tell you what it is, or should we just do it?
I don't know.
Ah.
Whatever you want.
All right. Wait a minute. We talked about this. Okay, here we go. Maya De Vitry, what is the first song that you learned on the guitar?
It was Our Town by Iris Dement.
Oh yeah, that's right. You learned it for show and tell.
That's correct, in kindergarten.
Oh, man. I know my facts.
Yeah.
Okay, do you like Batman or Superman?
Superman.
Do you like lakes or beaches?
Lakes.
What is your karaoke song?
I've never done karaoke.
Wow.
I know, but...
No.
Well, actually, we used to do like a little karaoke setup and sing along when I was a kid. I'll say that one, I think it was called like Stupid Cupid, and it was a Mandy Moore song on like maybe the Princess Diaries soundtrack. I mean, that's like a long, long time ago, but that was one I used to sing along to.
My irises have turned into hearts.
I
love it.
That's what I'll say.
Okay, Maya, what was your favorite radio station as a kid?
I just listened to, it's called WITF. It was just what was the local NPR station in Pennsylvania.
Oh my God. You listen to NPR when you're a little kid.
Well, my parents
You're
did.
a backseat listener.
I'm a backseat NPR child.
Do you like dogs or cats or something else?
Dogs.
What is the first album you bought with your own money?
Rubber Soul.
What was your first concert?
Something at the Longs Park Amphitheater in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It could have been... I can't remember. I mean, I'll say Nickel Creek.
Oh, that's cool. No one's going to challenge you on that. What is the last book you read?
The last book I read is called Motherhood by Sheila Heti.
What is your dream collaboration?
I would like to hang out with Bonnie Raitt and write together.
Oh, here we go. Flying or invisibility?
Flying.
Star Trek or Star Wars?
Oh my gosh. I haven't seen any of that.
You have to choose one.
Star Wars.
Okay, last question. What is the most beautiful place you've ever visited?
Kauai on Hawaii.
Love it. All right, that's it. That's the lightning round.
Great.
You did it. Wonderful job, Maya De Vitry. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cindy.
It has been a real pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Basic Folk this week produced by Adam Corey. Also thanks to our business manager, Lindsay Myers. Laura McCarthy is a producer on Basic Folk. Alex Stanton of Townspeople does our music. I'm your host, Cindy House, and you can find out more information about this episode of Basic Folk and all of the episodes of Basic Folk wherever you get podcasts, and also on my website, cindyhouse.net. There are so many episodes to listen to. This was the 66th episode of Basic Folk, so you can go back and catch up. There's a lot of great episodes on here, and I thank you for listening. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye.